Listen closely, because here's what really happened at Dior Paris. Meghan Markle wasn't welcomed back. She was quietly shut out. When Meghan arrived in Paris, this wasn't a casual visit. It was meant to be a comeback. Her team framed it as a private fashion trip. But inside Dior's marble headquarters, the mood was already set. Staff had been briefed in advance. There would be no meetings, no fittings, no last-minute changes. Sources close to the fashion house say her name had been discreetly flagged. Weeks earlier, an internal note had circulated advising that no unscheduled appearances from the Duchess were to be entertained. All communication was to go through legal channels. Even so, Meghan arrived with confidence, insisting she had an appointment for a couture session. The record said otherwise. No booking, no name on the list, and absolutely no collaboration planned. What was supposed to be a quiet reconnection became a calm but unmistakable refusal. Within hours, whispers began moving through Paris fashion circles. Dior had turned her away. It wasn't public, not yet, but in that world, news spreads faster than official statements. People inside the building described the atmosphere as icy but controlled. No raised voices, no spectacle, just procedure. Dior's communications lead stepped in, confirmed there was no appointment on file, and politely wished her a good day. For Meghan, this wasn't just a scheduling issue. It was a public-facing rejection from the very house she had been pursuing for months. Later, insiders revealed that her team had repeatedly pitched partnership ideas, ranging from a brand ambassador role to a campaign inspired by modern interpretations of Diana. The proposals were polished, ambitious, and clearly designed to position Meghan as a new symbol of legacy mixed with defiance. Inside Dior, however, the response was not what she expected. One executive reportedly summed it up bluntly: "We dress icons. We don't manufacture them from controversy." After that, her name was quietly removed from Dior's active contact lists. The courteous dismissal that morning was simply the visible end of a decision already finalized behind closed doors. Then, days later, proof began to surface. Leaked messages showed that Meghan's outreach to Dior hadn't been recent at all. It had been ongoing for months. Her final proposal reportedly included language comparing herself to Princess Diana's elegance, reimagined for a new era. That was the line Dior wouldn't cross. The board didn't want a media firestorm. They wanted separation. And privately, they voted to cut ties completely, blacklisting Meghan from all current and future collaborations. The move didn't stop with Dior. Other luxury houses quietly followed. Then came the twist. While Dior executives were trying to keep the situation contained, social media suddenly flooded with praise for Meghan's so-called Dior style. Influencers posted glowing comments, repeating the same phrases, the same hashtags, all uncannily similar. Inside Dior, internal teams looked closer. What they traced back raised alarms. The activity led to agencies connected to Meghan's PR network. To Dior, it looked less like admiration and more like an attempt to manufacture an association after being turned away. That crossed a line. Within hours of the rejection, the house sent a short, off-the-record message to fashion editors across Europe. Dior has no current or planned partnership with the Duchess of Sussex. One sentence. No explanation. No follow-up. In couture, that kind of silence isn't neutrality. It's a verdict. And when Dior shut the door, the effect rippled outward. Inside the LVMH group, the luxury empire that owns Dior, Fendi, Givenchy, and Louis Vuitton, Meghan's name began circulating internally on what insiders call a restricted list. These lists are never public, but every major fashion group keeps them. Names considered too volatile, too unpredictable, or simply not worth the reputational risk. Executives across different houses reviewed their own positions and quietly adjusted course. Givenchy, once closely associated with her during royal appearances, was the first to step back. Chanel declined future approaches. Even stylists who had previously pulled couture samples for her began receiving subtle guidance. Avoid association. This wasn't personal. It was risk management. In the fashion world, Meghan had become the one thing luxury brands fear most. A walking PR liability in couture fabric. Paris didn't ban her outright. It did something far colder. It stopped engaging. And in that silence, the blacklist spoke louder than any headline ever could. But Meghan wasn't ready to accept that outcome. Days later, She made an unexpected appearance at Balenciaga's Paris Fashion Week show. The move was calculated, a statement meant to place her back among fashion's inner circle. Cameras flashed. Lights followed. For a brief moment, it looked like a comeback was unfolding. But it wasn't. Insiders said the atmosphere changed the instant she entered. You could feel the temperature drop, one stylist later whispered. Editors kept their distance. Conversations stalled. The room didn't reject her loudly. It did something far more telling. It closed in on itself. Designers responded with polite distance. The applause that followed her entrance was restrained, formal, not the kind that fills a room. And while the photos later looked polished and glamorous, those who were actually there described it as staged and uncomfortable. No designer came over. No stylist leaned in to congratulate her. Behind the scenes, the conversation wasn't about her look at all. It was about how far she had drifted from fashion's inner circle. The cameras captured her smile. Paris noticed the silence. Backstage at Balenciaga, whispers began to move, the kind of whispers the city never forgets. Stylists and assistants exchanged quiet remarks, not about her dress, not about her hair, but about something far less forgiving. One person mentioned a heavy scent. Another said there was too much perfume, as if something were being masked. Whether it was true or exaggerated didn't really matter. In fashion, gossip spreads faster than fragrance. By the time the after-party wrapped up, the talk had already traveled beyond the room. Within hours, staffers from multiple houses were messaging each other about it. Some dismissed it as unnecessary cruelty. Others said it reflected the tension she carried into every space. In the end, the judgment wasn't about appearance or hygiene. It was about energy. Paris can forgive arrogance. It can forgive scandal. What it doesn't forgive is when the atmosphere turns heavy, whether literally or figuratively. And that night, the air around Meghan Markle felt suffocating. Then came the moment that turned discomfort into anger. After leaving the show, Meghan was spotted filming near the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the same tunnel where Princess Diana lost her life. Her team later claimed it was just a scenic drive, nothing more. But the city didn't believe that explanation. For a woman who had publicly drawn comparisons between herself and Diana, the choice of location felt deliberate. To many Parisians, it crossed a sacred line. Insiders whispered that she was trying to reclaim Diana's narrative, to create an emotional parallel. But for those who lived through that tragedy, it felt tone-deaf, even disturbing. A senior stylist who once worked closely with Dior summed it up quietly. Diana's legacy belongs to memory, not marketing. That single drive, filmed or not, caused more damage than any rejection from Dior ever could. Because in Paris, a city that still mourns Diana deeply, it felt less like tribute and more like performance. By the end of Fashion Week, the illusion collapsed completely. People who once praised Meghan's elegance began questioning her intent. Balenciaga had not dressed her for the event. Her outfit wasn't gifted. It was borrowed. The simple black pumps were the only authentic piece from the brand. Everything else had been arranged through third parties, not the house itself. To fashion insiders, that distinction mattered. It was a clear signal. No custom tailoring. No courtesies. No personal attention. She wasn't there as an honored guest. She was there because circumstances allowed it. And that's when Paris made its decision. Editors who once celebrated her presence grew distant. Stylists declined outreach. Even photographers stopped searching for flattering angles. It wasn't cruelty. It was something colder. Quiet dismissal. In Paris, no one pushes you out the door. They simply stop acknowledging you when you walk in. When Meghan boarded her flight home, cameras still clicked, but the warmth behind them was gone. Paris had already concluded that the Dior moment wasn't a one-off embarrassment. It reflected something deeper. The illusion of belonging. She came to France believing fashion could repair her image, that couture could replace what controversy had eroded. Instead, she learned a harsher truth. Style without authenticity is just costume. The woman who once fascinated the world now stood at the edge of her own performance, applause fading. In chasing Diana's shadow, she lost herself. Paris doesn't reward imitation. It reveals it. One editor's quiet remark in Le Figaro captured the mood perfectly. The difference between Diana and Meghan was never just elegance. It was sincerity. By the time she left the city, the whispers had vanished. Not replaced by outrage. Just resolution. Because in the end, Meghan Markle didn't leave Paris as fashion royalty. She left as a reminder that in the world of high couture, admiration can't be forced. It has to be earned. And Paris had made its choice. Distance.